vu. Okay, let's start this again. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are across the globe. Welcome to On the Sofa with yours truly, Esther Austin. Well, today with me, I have another incredible individual, another credible artist, and her name is Heather Hayes, and and she's also the daughter of the legendary Issac Hayes, but she's a legend in her own right because I've done my homework around this young lady, and you know, she's just got this. One thing I love about her is that her energy when she performs, she's just got this energy about her. She's singing from the heart, she's singing from the soul, she's enjoying herself, and she's just immersed herself with the music and the vibrations. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. It's been a while. We've been trying this since last year, but you know, we've been persistent and tenacious, and I'm glad that we finally got here. So Heather, I usually ask my guests in a nutshell, in a peanut shell, or a coconut shell, who is Heather Hayes?
Heather Hayes is the little girl that decided when she saw her first Broadway play that she wanted to sing. And I used to, have shows in my house, and I would make my father and mother watch me put on these shows that I created with costumes and music. And so honestly, I'm just still that girl that loves music, that loves singing, that loves entertainment. And I have a true love for it. It brings me joy, and I'm still that little girl.
That's great. And I guess with that little girl, you know, you still got the dreams and you're fulfilling the dreams, right? And you're having fun with it. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, it's fun. And I think a lot of times we have to decide specifically what the dream is, because I think when you enter into this industry, it can be really negative and really hard. And you can't allow that to deter you from why you wanted to do it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So kind of just have to hold on to the purpose of why you loved entertainment in the first place, because you can lose it and it's not as fun. And so, that's my thing. It's just, why do you want to do it? If you truly love it, it just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It really doesn't matter. As long as you have a space to be able to do it, there is gratitude. And for me, to be able to do that and a blessing in that.
Excellent. And as you speak, you remind me, that narrative reminds me a lot of I would say, the old time legends and pioneers that I've interviewed, like the Motown crew. They had a certain narrative and way of operating, and it was, they've got a gift and they want to share their gift and their blessing. And that's what kept them going, despite of and in spite of all that they had to go through behind the scenes. And also their love of it, as you say, their love of performing, their passion for performing. So absolutely. And if I may take you back a little, Heather, obviously your father, Issac Hayes, who doesn't know Issac, and who he was, the songs that he composed, the films, all of that, the music, the songs, the acting, all of that was the great legendary Issac Hayes. And so do you feel that part of your tenacity to be in the industry also stems from that, I would say, that platform that you were birthed into?
I think so, but I don't think that it registered to me immediately. And I say that because when I started getting into the industry, which meant singing background, dancing, in videos, like I've done it all. I've acted, I've done all those things. I wasn't completely equipped with the harshness of the industry, even though, because I think what's so interesting about my father is, and a lot of artists like my father, because I have lots of friends whose parents are musical legends and stuff, they don't really share a lot of that. I think the interaction is probably much different than most people think. We see things and hear things because it's just music and it's all around us. Yes. But they're in our presence as parents. They're just parents, right? So you don't really kind of fully grasp the ins and outs of the business part of the industry. It's just that we hear great music and we love it and we fall asleep in the studio with our parents and then we fall in love with it. And the nasty part of it a lot of times is kept away from us. And so when I started working in the industry on any platform, whether it be a dancer or a background singer, then I started to see it. And then as I got older, my dad started sharing some things with me himself. And I'm like, well, I wish you would have told me that a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like, I would have understood that. And so as time grew on, I feel like I stepped into my tenacity because then I had a full understanding of what he went through. And something just clicked in me. And it was one of those things where also you kind of have to decide why you want to do it.
Yes.
Do you love to do it? Do you want to be famous? Do you want to be wealthy? Or do you just love to do it? And I feel like if you just do what you love and you see the value in that and what you're blessed to do, your God-given gift, all of these other things will just come and you'll be wherever you are supposed to be. So to me, when I focus on that, that is where my tenacity came in, because it's like, God gave me this gift. God opens doors for me to do certain things. So at this point, whatever door he opens, I'm just going to walk through and we're going to see what happens. And that's just kind of, and I feel like I did get that from my father once, and waited until I got older to completely understand his path and what he went through and the ups and downs, to really, because of course I can read things and hear things, but it's so much more valuable when he tells me the story, about how I auditioned to be a Stax musician, and he went like 4 times and got turned down. Like, I didn't even know that. That's how he even decided to become a songwriter, because they wouldn't choose him as a staff musician, which is crazy. And I had no idea. So those are the things like, oh, okay. Because I think oftentimes, especially now with the internet and stuff, people see people's success, but you don't see everything that they went through to get to that successful space in their lives.
Yeah, I so get that. It's funny because, I mean, I love doing what I do. I love interviewing people. I love, getting to the heart and soul of individuals. And, for me this year especially, I have started to, everything I've been working behind the scenes for about 15, almost 20 years, it's finally starting to blossom. And someone said that exactly. They said people see the front interface, but they don't see. And sometimes I think, well, how can you not understand that you have to go through, everything's a journey, everything's a path until you get to this level. You don't just arrive. Um,
Yes.
and you're so right. And if you may share, Heather, one of the things that your father shared about you, about his journey, that for you may have taken you by surprise, but you looked at your father in a slightly different way after that sharing. Is there one thing that you can share?
Well, I think one thing that specifically is when he told me he literally went to audition at Stax like 4 times. And it's funny because I feel like everything is purposeful, right? So whether I was dancing, trying to, dance and audition for a video that I didn't make or whatever, I never knew that my father got turned down. Like, I'm just thinking, oh, he just, you know what I mean? But who's to say that had he not gotten turned down from being a staff musician, that he would have ever been the Hayes and Porter and wrote all those great hits? Who's to say? So when he said that, I'm like, I didn't know you had an audition and you got turned down. Like, so then all of the times that I got turned down made sense. And it made me look at it differently. And it began like, oh, the glass is half full, not half empty. Because I think a lot of times we look at the negative instead of the positive, just as human beings. And it's like, I'm up here boohooing about being turned down, but I've worked with Michael Jackson, Beyonce, and James Brown.
About that.
That's, you know what I mean? Like, and so it never dawns on you. So when he told me that, it's like something clicked and it made sense. Because I know theoretically people get turned down, but when you see someone like my father who literally came from the kind of poverty that a lot of us have never known, and to work his way up, and then I got turned down. I just came back and auditioned. And then it was like, oh, why not be a writing team? And he couldn't even really play the piano well. So those were the things that when he told me these things, I'm like, oh, okay, makes sense now. So you just got to keep going. That's what life is. Ups and downs, it's peaks and valleys. And we just kind of, I think when you have an understanding of that, you might have a bad day and a depressed day because something didn't work out, but you're just going to get back up and start all over tomorrow. You know what I mean? Because that's just what life is. And it's easier if you accept it and have an understanding of it than to kind of mull over it, because it's just not going to change. It just is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Love that. And I was going to ask you then, what are some of the tools that you use to keep you going? Because, I have a Mary Poppins bag that I dip into. So for me, it's exercise, it's prayer, it's meditation, it's walking. Those are my go-to places when I need, if I'm feeling a certain way and I need to just clear it. Where's your go-to place, Heather?
Prayer primarily. It's so funny because I think that a lot of times, especially in the United States, it's kind of how we describe religion. And I think for me, once I understood, when you say it's like your personal relationship with him, and so I literally have conversations like, okay, so look, I need you to work this out. It becomes, more real for me. And I feel a sense of calm when I do it, because again, it's like he's there. Like, so whatever happens, it's purposeful and it's supposed to happen. And I really have to tell myself that over and over again, because it might not end up the way you want it, but it's ending up the way that it's supposed to end up so that you can get from point A to point B. And I revert back to my dad. Had he just been a staff writer, maybe he would have just been a staff writer instead of creating hits for Sam and Dave and the Emotions and all these things, So it's like things might look a certain way, but God knows what's best. So for me, I definitely pray, and I like to work out and stuff like that, because I'm kind of in my thoughts. I might listen to music, I might listen to nothing, just thinking about what's going on. And so those are the places that I go, because I think that as I've matured, it's a lot of the outside noise that to me was very negative for me, just even growing up. So it's kind of destructive in my opinion. So for me, I literally really just kind of just pay attention to myself and pay attention to the signs that I think I'm getting.
Excellent. This is very empowering, because you're very grounded in who you are, what you believe. And That's really coming through. And if as a little girl, Heather, what as a little girl looking at your father and looking at the journey through those child's eyes and perspective, how did you view your dad?
Oh, I mean, he was just my dad. I think a lot of times when people ask us this, you don't really understand the fame, or you don't have an understanding of that, because most times a parent's going to keep you away from that, right? So, and then even when you're around it, you're like, I don't get it. Like, he punishes me for not doing, cleaning my room. Like, it's literally like nobody cares. Like, that's literally how you feel. You're like, like, who cares? Like, I don't, so you really look at them like a parent. And I think what it is other people make you realize
Yeah.
the impact that he has and how important he is to certain people. But for children, they just want the dad. It's like that. Nobody cares about that at all.
It's funny you said that, because I recently interviewed the Emotions, all of them, because they are in my magazine as well. And I remember Wendy saying the same thing. So she remembers the daddy and the mummy things as a parent, but not obviously. It's only later down, because I was in LA in March, and we went to lunch, and she was talking with her mum Wanda. She was there. She goes, I'm hearing these conversations about my mum. I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But it goes back to what you were saying. Growing up as a child, they're just your parents. It's only until you get older and you hear other people's experiences or perceptions of them, you think, oh, well, maybe there is something a little different about my parents.
Yeah.
And then you sort of start to see through their filter. But let's come back to you, Heather. I mean, you've performed and worked with some greats, as you've mentioned, Michael Jackson, James Brown, and there was another one that you mentioned. I mean, you've worked with Beyonce, and you've worked with a plethora of individuals. What was it about James Brown? Because James Brown was an interesting character. I feel he was a man in his own. He was just somebody in his own vein. He was a trendsetter. He was his own person. So for you, what was it that I don't want to say intrigued, because maybe he didn't intrigue you, but what was it about James Brown? What was the attribute about him that you felt, oh wow, this defines James Brown?
Tenacity.
Mm.
That defines him. It's like, when they refer to him as the hardest working man in show business, that is literally for a reason. It's very black and white for him. Either you want to work or you don't. Black and white. Go on. It's just very much that. And that, to me, that was so impactful, being like 20 years old and thinking, oh, you just got to get it done. The show must go on. Like, people are out here waiting to see us.
Yes.
Get it done. Period.
Yeah.
That was it. It was very, very black and white. And I think it's a level of, for him, probably appreciation, because he's another one that came from nothing.
Yes.
And what I most recognize about him, the time that I was working with him, he was literally making millions of dollars touring. We're all over the world. And he still kind of ran it like before he made it.
Mm.
On the chitlin circuit. Like, it was never like, oh, I'm James Brown, I'm not going to come to sound check today. I'm going to take it because I've arrived. No, it was like he still was trying to make it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
That, also, when it comes to the amount of hard work that you put into it, and you just never get comfortable, and you should always be appreciative of the moments that you have. Outside of my dad, that was the other person that taught me that.
It's funny, because I've interviewed Martha High, who worked with James Brown for over 30 years, and she is known as the hardest working woman in the industry, which is really interesting. And she said she got a lot of that by, you had to be on the ball with James Brown. She said, you just had to be on the ball all the time. And I guess in a sense, he sort of stretched you in terms of as being a person, but also stretched your skills, because, you just learned to develop all these different ways of interacting with him. But you had to be on the ball to be able to do that.
I mean, it's so funny, because I think my father did something and James Brown did something that was very pivotal in the moments of me doing a lot of the things that I'm even doing now. And so one thing with Mr. Brown is I was a dancer. I was hired as a dancer. When I got the job, I used my mother's maiden name because oftentimes people assume that you get because your father's famous. So I was like, nah, I'm going to use my mother's maiden name. So I went and auditioned with another friend of mine. They brought us both there to audition. He hired us on the spot. We didn't even come home after the audition. We had to stay for a week, go to rehearsals. I think my first show was at like Radio City Music Hall or something crazy like that. So I had been with him about 3 or 4 months, and I have older sisters. And one of the background singers was friends with a friend that was my older sister's friend, and they saw me in a show. And they were like, I think that's my friend's little sister. And so I get called in the dressing room. He's like, Miss Hayes, why didn't you tell me Isaac was your daddy? I was like, and I said, honestly, because I wanted to get the job because I was good. And he was like, okay. And I think at that moment, the level of respect that he had for me, I could tell. And so as time went on, he figured out I could sing or whatever. But I was still kind of shy, and we would practice and he would have me sing with this huge band in rehearsals, but it was just for practice cool. And I was dancing, he would introduce us. Well, he introduced me to the crowd, and I waved and I bowed, and we, the dancers, we walk off. And as I'm walking off, he's like, oh, Heather. And I'm like, and it's literally like 10,000 people. And I'm like, yes, like this is the part we practice it. And he's like, come back. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so he's like, well, she sings also. Her daddy's Issac Hayes, and she sings also. And then he goes, and then they just start playing the song. And I'm standing there like, oh, what do I do? You have to sing, right? I had to sing. So I finished the song. And after the show, he must have got back to the hotel before us, and he's sitting in the lobby. And I come in, and he's like, Miss Hayes, come here. And I was like, yes. And he was like, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. Like, because I don't know that I would have, he just put me in the spot where I wasn't going to run off stage. That's not my makeup. So he was just like band, and they just started playing the song, and I literally sang it in front of 10,000 people, like out of nowhere. And he was spontaneous like that. And so that to me was a pivotal moment for me to either, excuse the French, you got to piss or get off the pot. Either you want to do it or you don't. Absolutely. And that's just kind of what it is. And, I worked with him for years after that. And then I didn't want to dance, and it was kind of like figuring out what I wanted to do. And I kept telling my dad I wanted to start a band. And he was like, when are you going to start your band? And of course, me, being a kid, I'm like, well, Dad, can you send me some money? Yeah. Dad, can you send me some money? Yeah. Can you send me some money? And last time I asked him for some money, and he was like, well, I thought you were going to start a band. And I'm like, well, I am. He was like, so guess what? You have to start your band. Nobody's going to start your band for you. So I'm going to send you money, but this is the check. You're not getting any more. And I was like, oh my goodness.
I got to do something. I got to start the band. I got to do it. I got to do something. Yeah.
January, I had my first gig in March. I was like, oh, more money. Like, so those things, I was literally pushed out there in a way. But those moments from those two people is probably why, for sure.
Yeah, wow. And so now you're still performing.
Yep.
You do if I may say, is it a tribute to your father? Because what is this? You got your own show as well. What is your show called again? Is it the Heather?
So I have a band. It's a 10-piece, 11-piece show band. It's called the Heather Hayes Experience, which primarily we basically travel around the country entertaining private parties, corporations, all kinds of things. And then Hot Buttered Soul is a tribute to my dad, which is the show. And so I do songs that he wrote, produced, and performed as well. And then I have a radio show on Dash Radio with James Brown's daughter called Soul Sisters. And we basically talk about everything, but music that we play in between is usually connects to the topic that we are talking about. And we have all kinds of guests on. We have clergymen, we have, R&B stars, like we've had the Whispers, we have reality stars. We've just had a lot of people on, rappers, like just a lot of people. And then I also do, of course, Daughters of Legacy, which all of our parents are soul legends in their own right. And that would be Millie Jackson, Betty White, and Ann Nesby. And so those are the things that I do. And they're all performance based, basically. Just because like I said, I love doing it. And so, as long as the door is open, I just feel like, you just got to keep going.
And I remember just before Christmas, you did a cover of your father's song, Mistletoe. What was Mistletoe? That's right. And I listened to it, and like I said, you're a very powerful performer. You're a very strong performer, and they all say you have footballers and then you have footballers. You have bakers and you have bakers, and I feel you sort of fall into that bracket because it's not just the strong vocals, but you can feel, like I said, you can literally feel your soul in that place. You're sort of belching out from there, and then you start to move because you've got this way of moving. It's like music just takes you, a bit like a James Brown. It just takes you, like you're in the Holy Spirit. It just really looks like that. And that it's magical to watch that transformation as you get on stage and as you perform, and you're owning it. When somebody really owns their stuff, you can feel that. And for anyone, Heather, who wants to get into the industry, because yes, there is the other side of it, and a lot of the old school artists, they always talk about get to know the business. It's not just about get to understand the business. So for anyone who wants to get into the industry, what piece of advice would you give to them?
I would say that one of the main things I feel is to perfect your craft and never compare yourself to anyone else. You have to be who you are as an artist and be yourself at all times. And make sure that you know the business end of it and the creative end of it. And you have to make sure you have people around you,
yes,
that know the business, that are better than you, period. Because that's the only way you get better at all these different things. So I don't care if it's your musicians, I don't care if it's your dancers, I don't care if it's your background singers, I don't care if it's your attorney, or you have to have people that are elevated in a way that will elevate you. You can't be the best thing in the room because you're not going to get better, and you're going to be able to tell these people instead of them telling you what's best for you, because that's their expertise.
Mm-hmm. But there's wisdom there to be able to think that way. There's wisdom from experience. There's wisdom from understanding the journey. And sometimes, individuals may be in their ego too much to see that. And
exactly.
So yeah, it's a line of thought. It's a line of thought. And winding down, Heather, is there anything else you want to share about your journey, about your father's journey? Daddy's little girl, that you can leave with us?
Well, I just see a lot of purpose, I would say, in his life. And but I also think, like, as children, if we could have him here in this moment, we probably would trade all that away, because there's a lot of sacrifice in that. And I think that people need to understand that there's, it's not normal. You don't see him for months on end. You don't, those are the things that the family has to sacrifice. And I think that a lot of times when people idealize fame and success, you see it a lot right now on these social media platforms. And it's like, but you got to understand, the artist, I don't care if you're a model, a singer, a reality, whatever you are, they paid a lot of prices for this, and their families pay the price too. And so just because it's all shiny does not mean
it ain't always gold. That's
exactly. It's not. And so for me, I'm grateful that he, is my parent. I'm grateful for his journey, because it does give you hope to know that with tenacity and some kind of spiritual base, you can achieve anything, if you're walking the path that God has for you. I will say that. And so I'm just grateful. He's my dad and my mom are there. I think that people don't understand, your dad and your mom are chosen for you for a reason. there's reason and purpose in everything. And so, but he was super successful. He made a way out of no way.
Yeah.
Like, no way. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where I just play that in my head over and over again when I'm feeling sorry for myself or down, because those are the moments that you kind of have to focus on the gratitude, right? And be grateful. And never take any of it for granted.
And I did say it was the last question, but last one. And, it might not be a straightforward answer, but, out of all your father's tracks, which one was your favorite, or one of your favorites?
Probably two. So it would be Shaft, of course, and three: Shaft, Walk On By, and the Mistletoe. The Mistletoe on Me specifically, the Mistletoe on Me, the song that I covered, because I covered it for a specific reason. I just thought it was a beautiful song, but also Christmas was my dad's favorite holiday. And he made our Christmas so incredibly special because he didn't have them. And so when I went to think about those songs, and that's why I covered it. So those would be my three. And I just think it's a pretty song. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah. Yeah, you cover them well. But Heather, I just want to say a big thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing so authentically. And I know that's someone who, I feel people are going to pick up so much more from this interview than just me interviewing, Heather Hayes. It's going to be so much more. You understand where I'm going with this. And looking forward to, if you ever come to London, do give me a bell, do hook me up. And just continue to make some incredible music. You're still doing, the tribute to your father's legacy. And I look forward to hearing more from you over the next few months, so to speak. Yeah? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This is Heather Hayes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yama Brown, and you're listening to Soul Sisters, and this is Heather Hayes featuring Chase Stephen, Over You.
Oh, babe. I am overly complicated the situation. I need to just let you go, to just let it be, but it's not easy. It's so damn hard to do what makes sense, 'cause my mind is convinced, but I can't convince my heart to let it go. This is systematically killing me, and since you left, every exact cliche applies to me. Now the rain keeps falling down, I don't see the sun in the sky, and the tears fall from my eyes. My pillow won't stay dry. Is there someone who knows what to do, to get over why over you, over you? Oh, babe, I wanna get over why over you.
Question that for you, like, you've got to make sure that you're okay with it.
Oh, I can't seem to shake these memories of you and me. It's got me so weak, you see. But it must be the season for broken heart, 'cause the storm won't subside and the tide's rising high, and I'm drowning, babe. I've gotta let it go. This is systematically killing me. And since you left, every sad cliche applies to me, 'cause I just can't someone who knows what to do to get over you. Over you.
Baby, we both know things ain't right. Cut our off and then say goodbye.
But I won't let you see me cry. I'll keep the tears to myself deep inside.
I know you're breaking my heart in two. It's time for us to finally face the truth.
Forever is today.
But I wanna beg you to stay.
Why can't we walk away?
I wanna get over you. And the rain keeps falling down.
I keep falling to my knees.
And the tears fall from my eyes.
I'm going on my mind.
Is there someone who knows what to do to get over?